The most important thing that I need to get across to you is that .NET Framework isn't going anywhere. .NET Framework will be around for as long as Windows is around, but it is not going anywhere. The long-term evolution will happen in Core 5, 6, 7, 8 and onwards, but .NET Framework itself will always be around as long as Windows is around. So this video is based on a suggestion from Paul Seal at codeshare.co.uk. If you want to suggest a video yourself, head over to Twitter and send me a DM. My DMs are open. I'm Podcaster J. There'll be a link in the description. Or indeed, send just a tweet by itself. Or leave a comment on this video and I'll work it into the rotation and we'll figure it all out from there. But my thanks go out to Paul for suggesting this topic. It's quite an important one. So for those of you who don't know about .NET Core, which is today's subject, when should you switch to it? To give some background information, I am a big fan of .NET Core and I've been writing a lot of apps in .NET Core since around 2016. And I've been writing a lot of apps in .NET frameworks, in various .NET frameworks since around 2003. So yeah, I'm a big fan. And what's great about it is it helps you to do a rapid application development. And so, you want to dial out to the internet, it's maybe 4 lines of code. Whereas in C, you'd have to pull in a sockets library and write some custom code to write out to the web and to deal with the response as it comes in. But the biggest problem with .NET is it's always been locked to Windows. If you wanted to build .NET applications outside of Windows, you either had to spin up a VM with Windows on it, or take your chances with a technology called Mono. I'll put loads of links into the description, and you're seeing NuGet over here, right on screen. I'm not sure which way it is, but it's on the screen somewhere. Big smiley face. No, you're seeing NuGet, which is the package manager. We'll come on to that in a minute. But in 2014, one of the teams at Microsoft announced that they were making a version of .NET that was cross-platform, and so you'd be able to make all of your apps on Windows, Linux, and Mac machines, which is wonderful, right? And that's how you got .NET Core. But when should you switch over? Well, let me give you a little history, okay, to sort of help decide when to switch over. So back in the 1.0 days, we talk about NuGet, right? NuGet is .NET's package manager. Wow, I'm having trouble today. NuGet is .NET's package manager. Similar to NPM for Node, it has all of the packages there for you to use. If you're doing JSON stuff, there's a package for it. If you're doing XML stuff, there's probably a package for it. If you're doing whatever you're doing with .NET, there's likely a package for it that is open source and available on NuGet. And you can just download it and stuff it into your application and start using it, right? Rather than pulling in libraries from a downloaded zip file or whatever. The problem was that in the 1.0 days, not many people had started migrating their packages over so that they worked with .NET Core. There was a big effort to do that, but it took a while. And then as .NET Core 2.0 approached, there was a push for make your apps in .NET Standard. Make your libraries in .NET Standard. Sorry, not your apps. Make your libraries with .NET Standard. And what was great about that is that by the time .NET Core 2.0 came around 70% of the NuGet packages, across the board. You can see on screen a bunch of stats about how many packages there are, but 70% of them worked with .NET Core with very little or just minor tweaks needed. And if you're not sure what .NET Standard is, I would take a look at, I've gone to the wrong tab here, sorry about that. Take a look at this blog post I'll release this page on the documentation which talks about .NET Standard, and it has this wonderful yet slightly difficult to read table which shows which things are supported and where. But the essential thing here is that .NET Standard is a way of sort of it's an interface, right? And to explain that a little bit better, I would recommend going and read this article from Paul from codeshare.co.uk, specifically, there's a section down here about .NET Standard. I would definitely go and read that because it makes it make a whole bunch of sense if you don't know what .NET Standard is. But the problem with this is the code inside of Windows, or rather code written that uses Windows APIs, does not and will not work in .NET Core on macOS and Linux distributions. And as such, it wasn't ever included in the .NET Core binaries or any of the NuGet packages that .NET Core pulls. And so what they had to do was Imo Landworth, that's one of the leads in the .NET Standard team, had to come up with what's called the compatibility pack for .NET Core, which meant that if you are building a .NET Core app and it is definitely only ever going to run on Windows and you need to use Windows things, you can add this compatibility pack and it will sort of unlock some of those features. But the second that you try to run your application on a Linux or a Mac OS machine, it'll fall over and it won't run ever again. So there's still some things that aren't going to be like ported across. As such, there are still some sort of corner cases with .NET Core and with .NET 5 and .NET 6 which may not work. So it's really about picking the bits that work. For example, right, there's a large portion of the Umbraco code base that requires Windows APIs, and Bjarke Berg at the Umbraco headquarters is leading a team to convert as much of the Umbraco source code over to .NET Core as he can, but he will end up hitting on these snags where there's Windows specific APIs that he has to use that have to be used. So they're looking for ways around that. But a lot of .NET framework, or rather a lot of .NET applications, are still written with framework in mind and can't be ported across to Core for legacy reasons or for reasons like I just said, using Windows. But like I said, the most important point, now this page here is the Microsoft support page for .NET framework. I've highlighted on screen the most important part, right? I'm moving the mouse around on screen, and it essentially says, right, this is the most important part of this video. .NET Framework, right now in 2020, the latest from Microsoft is that .NET Framework is not going away. .NET Framework will be around as long as Windows is around, because it is kind of a core component of Windows at the moment. So the sky is not falling. Do not worry if you are in the enterprise. .NET Framework will stay around. It will still be supported, it will still get security updates, but it will not get new features. So the long-term evolution for .NET is .NET Core 4, 5 and 6, right? So yeah, totally important point of this video. In fact, let me just switch over to here so you can't get distracted by the music that's playing in the background. So .NET Framework is not going away. It will always be around as long as Windows is around. In 2020, as I am recording this, from that previous screen you just saw, .NET Framework is not going away. So the sky is not falling, the enterprise is not abandoned. As long as Windows is supported, .NET Framework is supported. Let's just go back to that screen so you can see it again. And I'll put the link into the description. This is the most important part of this video. But should you switch to .NET Core? So here's my advice, right? If you are working on greenfield applications, take a look at .NET Core. Take a look at what you are expecting the application to do. If you need Windows specific APIs, maybe you need to talk to WinForms or something using XAML or something that uses Windows authentication. You're going to have to stay with .NET Framework, but maybe you can take parts of that application out and put them into something else. And put them somewhere else in the .NET Framework area and call it via an API call. Right? Maybe over the web, maybe via microservices, I don't know. But yeah, if you are looking at making a new application, .NET Core, or as it is soon to be renamed, .NET 5 is the way to go. If you are working on a brownfield project, that's not a brand new project, a project that already exists, that is mostly written in .NET Framework, maybe consider taking some of that, a portion of that out, and putting it into a .NET Core application somewhere else. Or maybe take some code that already exists and start converting some of your API calls one after another over to .NET Standard, right? Because there will come a time eventually where you will be asked to port over to .NET Core 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, whatever the number will be at that time. And if you take the steps now to move the API code over to .NET Standard, then the job of moving everything over will be a lot simpler. But yeah, that's what I would say. If you're having to use both framework and core, then I would look at moving over as much as you can. Any authentication, anything that relies on Windows APIs, throw it into a .NET Framework application or a .NET Framework API that you can talk to. And if you can, look into .NET Standard APIs and build some of those, because .NET Standard can communicate between both of them. So yeah, .NET Core if you're making something new, .NET Framework if you're still in .NET Framework, and if you need to convert something over, take some time to figure out the plan and the path you're going to take, because it's not just a case of right click build as .NET Core. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into actually porting stuff over. I'll maybe make a video on that in the future, I'm not sure. It's a big topic. Maybe I'll do it as a live stream and put it over here, I'm not sure. But hopefully all of that made sense. The key points from this video are: one, let's go over here. One, .NET Framework is not going away. Check this page which has been shown on screen. It is that important. I wanted to show it on screen for the majority of the video. Check this page, the link will be in the description, for the latest information on what the .NET Framework support system is. But yes, number one, .NET Framework is not going away. Number two, if you can, and you're building something new, look into .NET Core or .NET 5 or .NET 6 or whatever it will be called when you're watching this video. 3, if you are working on something that is not new, look into whether you can make a part of it in Core and talk to .NET Framework for all of the other things you need. Or take out the bits that are common, like let's say you have a microservice written in .NET Core that needs to talk to some API method that is in your .NET Framework application. We'll take those common APIs out, put them into a .NET Standard project, and import them into both projects. That way, both projects have the latest version of the code, and there's no direct coupling between them. There's a coupling between the core and the standard and the framework and the standard, but there is no direct link between, no coupling between framework and standard, framework and core, sorry. And that way, when you come to replace each of your .NET Framework things with multiple .NET Core things, it will be a lot more trivial to move things over, to migrate things over. But that, yeah, like I said, it all depends on what makes sense for you. If you can get the authorization to just start a brand new project and move things over, fantastic. If you are elbow deep in .NET Framework, maybe it's not for you just yet, but look into it and have a plan in the back burner for moving things over, migrating to standard. If you're working on something brand new and you're allowed to do it, absolutely give it a try. If there is something in your project that requires .NET Framework that you can't do in .NET Core, you can always call out to a service that you can write that will do it for you, right? That's the great thing about this. It's when it makes sense for you. Anyway, that was when should I move over to .NET Core. Thank you ever so much, Paul from codeshare.co.uk, for suggesting this topic. And if you have a topic in mind, head over to Twitter, look for Podcaster J. There'll be a link in the description, and send me a message on there, or leave a comment on this video and I'll add it to the rotation. Anyway, stay safe, folks, and I'll see you later.